Hey there. All right. So if you want to start a community project, you need a few things. First of all, you need a good idea. You need a lot of people behind you, and you need a good, solid plan. So here's the idea. A ferry that crosses the Delaware from New Jersey to the Philadelphia Navy Yard. And like a lot of ideas, I got it when I was thinking about something completely unrelated. I was sitting on the bus going down to the Navy Yard. Any of you work at the Navy Yard? Yeah, you take the bus? Yeah, I knew somebody would. Okay, so those buses go down jammed in the morning to the Navy Yard, standing room only, some of them, and then they return empty to Center City to pick up the next load. And I was thinking, what bus comes into Center City empty in the morning? That doesn't make any sense. Certainly somebody could use it, put it to use, but who? Nobody lives in the Navy Yard. But I thought, well, they do right across the river in Gloucester County, New Jersey. They can take the ferry, come from a very fast-growing county to a very fast-growing business center, and then take the bus into Center City, or just go to the Navy Yard. And I knew, by the way, this wasn't an original idea. There used to be a ferry, ran for about 70 years, ended in 1995, when the Navy closed the Navy Yard as a naval base, but before it was an office center. And actually, if you go to the ferry landing that used to be there, it's still there, in West Deptford, New Jersey, and that's the view looking across from the old ferry landing, and you could see the Navy Yard a mile across the river and Center City 3 miles beyond. Shortest distance between 2 points is straight line. You got it. So I said, let's do it. And the Navy Yard Ferry Initiative is born. And you could join it by joining up with Facebook, Navy Yard Ferry, or the Twitter handle is Ferry Project. And what it needs really is a lot of community support. And I thought, first of all, for this to succeed at all, you couldn't put any public money toward it. If we were asking for tax dollars, this thing would be dead in arrival. It'd have to be self-supporting. And when I began to run some of the initial numbers, it turns out it really can be just by ferry fares. So I thought, next step, let's talk to some people about it. I started with the Navy Yard, went to talk to the managers of the Navy Yard, Philadelphia Industrial Development Corporation. Said, what do you think of the idea? And they said, interesting idea. We got a lot on our plate. Let us know what happens. Then crossed the river, talked to some people and some government officials in Gloucester County, New Jersey, and the attitude was the opposite. It was like, oh man, we really need this ferry. Have you ever been on 295 in the morning trying to get to Philly? You can't get there. And we have no transit, just buses, and they get stuck with the traffic. That, by the way, is the logo of Gloucester County, New Jersey. Close to everything. Everything seems to be Center City, Philadelphia, but far, far away. Next, I decided to take a field trip to a close-by city, New York, visit their ferry system, New York Waterway. Great system, 7 routes across the Hudson, runs every 20 minutes. And by the way, if you remember when the plane landed in the Hudson, the U.S. Airways plane, Sully Sullenberger landed his plane in the Hudson, the first craft to actually make the rescue was a New York Waterways ferry. And that's the terminal. Oh, there's the rescue craft, not the Coast Guard, but the ferry. And the terminals are one of the most nicest things about the New York Waterway system. They're beautiful, all the amenities a commuter would need. They have restaurants, they have really everything that you would need. And I realized that for this to work, it would have to be more than just transit. It would have to be a total experience, a nice, warm, dry terminal where you could wait for the ferry, buy coffee and a muffin, have to be able to take your bikes in the ferry, have to be able to, it needs Wi-Fi. Anyway, people began to talk to me about other ferries they knew, like the one that crosses San Francisco Bay from Alameda and Oakland to San Francisco. Researched that, $6.50 across the bay. And another one in Virginia goes from Norfolk to Portsmouth, run by the local transit authority, costs the same as a bus. And there are all kinds of passenger ferries that run across the country in places that have water. 2 questions I get all the time. First, who will operate the ferry? Well, it should be somebody who's in the business, probably a private company working with a government agency, what's known as a public-private partnership. And who pays for it? Well, pays for itself. And finally, being a Philadelphia project, we're not falling into that trap. Ferry is an F word. So what this needs now is community support. Get behind it, and together we'll ride the ferry.